Hey guys, it's time for mentor sentences today. And today is our longer day because I'm going to teach you what you need to know for your quiz that is on Friday. So let's go ahead and take a look at our sentence. We're first going to start off by revising, and then I'm going to do a little lesson with you. Okay, so this is our sentence. I don't know, but it's hanging by its feet, chirped Flitter. So I am going to go through and revise it. Remember, revising is just making it better. So I think that I think instead of saying it's hanging by its feet, I think I'm going to make it a little bit more, not better, I guess. Not better. I want to change it up so it sounds a little bit better to me. So instead of saying hanging by its feet, I'm going to say hanging, and I'm going to add onto the nest, just to give it a little bit more information. I want them to know a little bit more, because just by this sentence, I don't really know what's going on. So I don't know. And instead of saying chirped, I'm going to say tweeted. Like tweet, tweet. So I would say, I don't know. Oop, don't forget those quotation marks. I don't know, but it's hanging onto the nest by its feet. And then I would put tweeted Flitter. That's my revised sentence, just to make it a little better, sound a little bit more put together, have a little bit more information in it. I did change this verb right here, and the dialogue tag, and I did add a prepositional phrase in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's move on. Remember, this is the most important lesson. If you're going to watch any of them, you should always watch Wednesdays, because that is when I go over what's the big thing you're going to see on your test on Friday. So again, you're going to see the sentence, and you're going to have to remember how to rewrite it correctly. But then you're going to see apostrophes for showing possession and contractions. And you're also going to see quotation marks. So let's go ahead and let's start with apostrophes. Apostrophes are everybody says the floating comma. So let me show you an example real quick. The floating comma in the air. So I'm going to write the word. This is the word don't. And the apostrophe is that purple mark. I should have made that another color so you can see it better, but that's okay. That purple mark right there that has don't. Right there. That's the apostrophe. So apostrophes can be used in possessives, and they can be used in contractions. So let's start with the easy one, and that's contractions. I am sure you have seen contractions all over the place. You use them when you're talking all the time. So there can be contractions with the word will, like I'll, you'll, she'll. So in I'll, we take out the W and the I, and we put an apostrophe in its place, and it becomes I'll. With you, again, the W-I, and it becomes you'll. And she, again, the W-I, and it becomes she'll. With I'm, it's I plus am, and that apostrophe is taking the place of that A. He and is, you would take the place of the I. Theirs, that takes the place of the I, and that would take the place of the I. So this isn't possessive. It's not saying, hey, I own something. It is just a placeholder for a couple of letters. It's a contraction. So it's a shorter way of saying what you need to say. So you don't have to say, I will go to the store. You'll say, I'll go to the store, Mom, just real quick. Or don't is do not. It takes the place of that O. Aren't, are not. Isn't, is not. Couldn't, could not. Weren't is were and not. Didn't is did and not. Cannot or can't is can and not. And won't is a different one, is actually will not. So it kind of has a bunch of different ones, but we'll do this. Okay, so don't know where my lid went for that, but that's all right. Those are contractions. So you can see an apostrophe and a contraction, just like this one. So don't or did, didn't. Let me see. I'm going to use a different color so you can see it. Those are how apostrophes are used in contractions. Now, apostrophes can also be used in possessives, and we talked about that using this anchor chart. Raise your hand if you remember this. Really, we're not focusing on the plural part of it. We're only focusing on the possessive. So that is when you own something right after it, or it's a plural possessive. So you either have apostrophe S or S apostrophe. So these are the contractions, but this, like dog's house, the dog owns that house, so it is apostrophe S. So most of the time, if you see apostrophe S or S apostrophe, this is a possessive. That means possessive means it shows possession. It owns something, like the dog owns that house. It is his house. Or the girls' team. I would put my apostrophe at the end because there's a bunch of girls. All of those girls own that team. It's their team. So those would be a possessive. These two, those are a shorter way to say something. So those are, I'll write it in this color. Those are contractions. Those are contractions. And I'm sure that you know what a contraction is. I just wanted to make sure. So when we get to this part of the test, you're going to see apostrophes can be used to show possession or contraction. You're going to write a P for possession and a C for contraction. So if you see apostrophe S, it's going to be possession. But if you see a contraction where it takes the place of a letter, this one, I'm, would be I am. So that would be a contraction. So that's what you're looking for with that one. All right. So now that I've kind of showed you the difference between possessive and contractions, let's look at quotation marks. And this part is the bottom of your test. You're going to have to add quotation marks to the sentences. And there are 3 different ways that you're going to see quotation marks. So you're going to see one, and that's the first one with the tag at the end. And I like to think of the tag as like a tag on your shirt. So you know when you buy a new shirt or dress or pants or shoes, it has a tag that comes with it? That's kind of what the said been part is. Or in our mentor sentence this week, it would be, let me get it out. It would be the chirped flitter. That would be our tag. And it goes with every single quotation we see. Remember, quotations are something that actually comes out of your mouth, something that is said in a book, kind of like a speech bubble. But on this one, the tag goes at the end. So our quotation marks would surround what he said. So quotation marks can be tricky. Notice how there's quotation marks at the beginning and at the end. But there's no quotation marks around said Ben. The only thing that came out of Ben's mouth was quotation marks can be tricky. So pretend he looked at his friend and he said, hey, quotation marks can be tricky. He said that, so my quotation marks only go around what they say. So there's one you're going to see that has the tag at the end. You're also going to see one with a tag at the beginning. So Ben said quotation marks can be tricky. Remember, the only thing Ben said was quotation marks can be tricky. So it's like he turned to his friend and said, quotation marks can be tricky, like they're talking. So you only put the quotation marks around what is said. Here's where it gets tricky. When you have a tag in the middle. So quotation marks can be tricky, Ben said, but I think I have them figured out now. So you see these all the time when you're reading. Ben said this part, quotation marks can be tricky, and he also said this part. So you have to have those quotation marks around everything he said. Okay, so again, quotation marks can be tricky. There's beginning quotation marks and end quotation marks. Then we have our dialogue tag. See it right there, Ben said. Then we have some more things he said, but I think I have them figured out now. And he also said that, so we put quotation marks around it. So anything that people say is where we put quotation marks. We have to envelop them. Think that you're making sure that they have something to protect them, because that is what they said. That's what came out of their mouth. It's kind of like putting a speech bubble around it. So if I said something like, "Hey class," said Mrs. Simpson. Where would I put the quotation marks on this? "Hey class," said Mrs. Simpson. My dialogue tag starts with "said," and then it has my name. So I said, "Hey class." So my quotation marks would go around, "Hey class," because that's what I actually said to you. So what if I said, Mrs. Simpson said, "Get out your essay." Where would the quotation marks go here? Notice my dialogue tag is at the beginning. So what did I actually say? I told you to get out your essay. So I would put my quotation marks around what came out of my mouth, what was said. Okay, here's the hard one. "It is time for reading," said Mrs. Simpson, "and we are learning text features. Where would my quotation marks go?" So my dialogue tag is in the middle, said Mrs. Simpson. That's my tag. So what did I just think to yourself? If I was in a comic book, what would go in the speech bubble? What did I say? What came out of my mouth? Well, this did. "It is time for reading," said Mrs. Simpson. And then I kept talking. I still kept talking, and I would say, "and we are learning text features." So I would put the quotation marks around what I actually said. All of this today, I know I went through it pretty fast, but it's a review over things that we've learned at the very beginning of the year. So down here at the bottom of your test for Friday, you're going to have to add the quotation marks. So "Mother," Stellaluna squeaked, "where are you?" You're going to have one where the middle is the dialogue tag. The end is the dialogue tag. The end is the dialogue tag. And the beginning is the dialogue tag. And you're going to have to know what they said and where to put those quotation marks. All right, guys. So I hope that was a good review over, now contractions was new, but you should have learned it last year and in second grade. But apostrophes and quotation marks well enough to where you can do your test on Friday. All right, guys. I love y'all so much. I know that was a longer video today. Tomorrow will be shorter, I promise. I will talk to y'all later. Bye.